Yeah, somebody watched every Adam Sandler movie. Interesting how synchronicity comes upon us because I've seen a lot of Sandler posting online, and maybe this is just it's just synchronicity. But let me clarify: why would anybody put themselves through the trouble of watching this selection of movies that I have in front of me right now? Why would anybody subject themselves to this? I mean, maybe you're somebody who just enjoys Adam Sandler movies, which I could say I am to a degree. But to me, this is a war against society. This is my personal crusade against society and God and film art hose. And it's to send a message. It's a message of both love and war, and it's a message that none of us know what the fuck is going on. Going overboard, it starts where they say, yeah, we pretty much just had a yacht and a bunch of supermodels, and it has them being bimbos for the first like 20 minutes, and Sandler's like he's like a waiter on this yacht. He's being like a skippy seaman. You know what I'm saying? He works and he's just like some bitch. This is this classic Sandler trope where he's some sort of like beta male, but he's not. He's just like he's undervalued. I'm not gonna get quite into this meta Sandler analysis just yet. I gotta focus on the groundwork, but it really cements like, yeah, Adam Sandler, he's this guy. He's like, oh, and a big point of this movie is he wants to be a comedian. So it's all already extremely self-referential to the character to the external character that is Adam Sandler outside of the character that he's playing in this movie. It's already very external to his fears and what he wants out of life, where he's like trying to be a comedian and he's telling jokes that just don't land, but in his head he's like really funny, like he's like able to be like somewhat charismatic. In honesty, nothing really changes. He's not funny, it's just a rhythm. The Zohan, that's that's an insane, that's a fucking insane movie, dude. A lot of these movies, a lot of Sandler movies get boosts in my brain just for being insane. And so, if there's something about the Zohan that I can say that's good, is that it's not forgettable. Some of these movies are really fucking forgettable, but the Zohan, I'll always remember that. I remember the Zohan before I rewatched it for the purposes of making this list. So, and very like key points of it stand out at the moment. But I do gotta say, it is a dumbass movie. It's so stupid. It really depends on your sense of humor. The Zohan, I can't be skipping ahead. Let's just say solid sandling. Overboard. The Going Overboard. This is an interesting movie. I don't think it's very funny. Um, Mel Brooks shows up in this movie to inspire Sandler, and that's a trend throughout a lot of Sandler movies. Is that he likes Mel Brooks, and for good reason. We'll consider this a mid to solid Sandler movie. I know that's completely very wishy-washy, but we got to talk about Airheads for a second because Airheads is important because it's sort of a stepping stone piece for Adam Sandler. The front man is really Brendan Fraser, but it's this trio comedy of metalheads, and they're all actually kind of uniquely idiotic, and that's sort of the comedy. Like they got a Three Stooges angle about it, except they're more or less working together. It's really Sandler and Buscemi kind of have this like bickering Three Stooges bit, while Brendan Fraser is sort of he's the man with the plan, but he's maybe the dumbest out of all of them. He's like this great himbo character who's like, yeah, man, gotta just what rock and roll is all about is just not giving a fuck about anything, man. Whatever happened to not giving a fuck about anything? Like some kind of shit like that. um, so you know I love it. You know I love Brendan Fraser. No, I love some, but actually Steve Buscemi. I think that I would put Airheads higher than Going Overboard, but it's a solid one. So, but I'll put Going Overboard in solid. Steve Buscemi is very important. He's very important in Airheads. Steve Buscemi is probably my favorite part of Airheads. Billy Madison. Billy Madison. I think this is a litmus test. Do you like Adam Sandler? Watch Billy Madison. Find out. If you don't like Billy Madison, stop there. So if you think Billy Madison is a good time, which I think it is, I'd say this is at the low end of good old Sandman. It's like above. I'd put it above, or I'd put it at the top of Solid Sandaling. It's kind of like that. I'll put it in good old Sandman for now. But this is the litmus test. Like, you're not gonna find that more organic SNL Adam Sandler humor than in Billy Madison. Chris Farley's in this movie for one thing. Um, that's cool. This was also directed by um, Tamara Davis, who she doesn't, I don't remember anything else standing out in her directorial filmography. So, but I think maybe she's a SNL writer. I just did a very short research on some of these early directors, but I thought that was interesting that his two leading role comedies directed by women. Very interesting. Very progressive, Adam Sandler. Happy Gilmore. This is the start. Another uh, Happy Madison, right? That's his two first movies. Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore. They started the production company, slap his dad's face on every single one of the openings. Happy Madison. You know, these are his two claim to fame movies, right? At least in the beginning. Adam Sandler, Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison. Happy Gilmore, who directs it? Dennis Dugan, which Dennis Dugan has a um, hit or miss record with Sandler movies. He has some of the early, if we're gonna Sandler classics, I wouldn't call them film classics, but he has some like of the beloved Sandler movies in his resume. But he also has some of the stinkers. So Dennis Dugan, interesting character in the Sandlerverse. Happy Gilmore, I like. I might like it more than Airheads, or at least on the same kind of tier. I think that it's one of the most solid. I think Zohan is okay. If there was going to be a Sandler cinematic universe, Zohan would be like the checkmate piece. He should put him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because he's too overpowered for the rest of the Sandler universe. But if we're going to make a Sandler Cinematic Universe where all of the Adam Sandlers are brought in through some sort of like Steins Gate cosmic fate web of Thanos, yeah. Zohan is like the equivalent of Thanos to the that's actually a good turn. Zohan is actually the enemy. What do you think about that, Idol 2? Where because Zohan is actually also like Israel's Captain America if you think about that. So where do you go with that? Where do you take if you're sexually attracted to Adam Sandler, watch this movie. He's like he went through like the Captain America Hollywood training. He was probably on that clenbuterol, getting shredded as fuck, dude. He looks good in this movie. He catches a fish in his ass. I don't know if he has an ass double. Move on. Adam Sandler, Zohan, probably. But I definitely did like it more than Going Overboard. Going Overboard is mid. If you don't have a high tolerance for stupid, this movie is you're gonna get real tired of this shit. I like Bulletproof. I think Bulletproof is solid. Now that I think about it, I think that I'd rate them more like this. I might like Zohan more than Happy Gilmore. Just because I think did I get to the point where Happy Gilmore exudes like this blue collar like real like masculinized Adam Sandler that he kind of takes to. That's an interesting prospect because that comes back later in a lot of newer Adam Sandler movies and also some other like late 2000 early 2000 mid or like late 90s Sandler movies. Bulletproof, Damon Wayans, directed by Ernest Dickerson, who is he directed Juice at this point, and he went on after this to direct the Bones with Snoop Dogg, and he's directing this buddy cop movie that Damon Wayans is like the front man. So they have Damon Wayans being the cop actually, and Adam Sandler is this scoundrel. He's this rogue. Um, what is he doing? I guess he's like a gangster, right? He's got mob ties, and the thing is, Damon Wayans has infiltrated the racket that Adam Sandler is in. He was a cop, but he was my best friend. What am I gonna do? Solid movie. It's an enjoyable movie. Buddy, not cop movie. Buddy gangster movie where the cop a lot of angles flip, and it's not gonna surprise you. That's why I'm not putting it high, like crazy high. I think it's not very surprising, but decent direction. It's like if you're gonna watch one of these movies from that era, it's a fine movie to watch. The Wedding Singer might be Adam Sandler at his best, if I'm being real, but I guess I'll talk about some of my issues with The Wedding Singer first. They underutilized Drew Barrymore. She's more, she's not very, and the writing with her character is kind of strange. Like it's very like it's a faster paced movie. Like the movie doesn't drag on, so that's good. But it's got some like questionable. It's got like a questionable speed to the how they unfold the dynamic between Barrymore and Sandler. And the whole opening is probably one of the best parts. This movie like captures you in the opening because it's Adam Sandler singing, something that he does more and more throughout his career. He's not like a great singer, but he does it. It's like okay, he has a trick. He has like a small thing. He's not amazing by any means, but that somebody's trying to do this. It does factor into you thinking this guy's really multifaceted for a guy that people usually write off as pretty one-dimensional. It's a reminder that Sandler tries. Adam Sandler tries, but I like this movie a lot. Who was the director of this one? Frank Corky. Frank Corky is a big one. Frank Corky has directed probably. He's also directed the next one, Waterboy. But I think that Frank Corky in general would probably be remembered as the director of probably Sandler's like best movies. It's such a interesting ensemble of characters. It doesn't get too big. Later Sandler movies, like they're just drowning in like loose end characters, like just like people that are on. It's like they're having a party on set. That's cool, but the cast gets so absurdly large. It just you get lost. Nothing can really be taken out of the movie because, and it makes the movie more forgettable because you don't have anything to really fixate on. So that is a habit where the casts get so saturated, it's hard. But The Wedding Singer finds this nice ensemble balance where it's like it is all about Sandler and also has like this like great supporting cast. There's some big moments in Sandler's career that are really big. Like what the fuck did he mean by that moments? And so I'm weaving these little plot threads in. There's a character that's like androgynous, effeminate character, and the joke is sort of like their name is like Ricky or something, but they're played by trans woman by the name of Alexis Arquette, who was in this era in the late 90s. It's sort of like the whole like gender thing. I'm not going to get too deep into these weeds, right? But the whole like gender thing wasn't perceived the same way. So it was more like, yeah, this is just a cross-dresser, right? And at this time, in this person's life, they're like, yeah, I just want to be androgynous. I don't care what the fuck people think about me. They're in Adam Sandler's movie as a male character, and it plays it for laughs at some points, but it's not like the worst thing ever. And it's interesting where throughout Sandler's whole career, there's been a lot of cross-dressing, transgenderism, and just LGBT stuff in general. And I am planting a seed here because a lot of you know what's coming. If you know about the Sandlerverse, you know what's coming. Let's not get too bogged down in that. It is about Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler is the A. Yeah, if that stands for Adam Sandler, that's what he is. The LGBTIA. The A stands for Adam because we don't know what this guy is. But the question that you need to be in the back of your mind as we go through this list is, would transitioning have saved her? Also directed by Frank Corky. In the same year, funny enough, as The Wedding Singer. I feel like The Wedding Singer got all the love. The Waterboy is just stupid as hell. I know that people are going to be sad. People love The Waterboy. People love The Waterboy. I don't like laughing. My thing, this is a me thing. This is a me thing. This is me injecting my taste onto the tier list for sure. But so is the Zohan, because the Zohan is really, and a lot of comedy is socialization, if you think about it. A lot of comedy, this is devastating for you to hear. I know, Andrew. I know, Andy. I know you love the Waterboy, but it is funny. It is funny. I gotta say, the Waterboy's funny. It's made me laugh more than Going Overboard did. Um, but this movie upsets me on just like a guttural level, where I don't like laughing at people for being stupid. Billy Madison, on one hand, Billy Madison isn't stupid. He's an idiot. The difference between an idiot is that they're trapped. An idiot and somebody who's stupid is an idiot is trapped in their own idiocosm. Billy Madison, he was capable of passing high school all along. He was just privileged and he didn't have to work very hard, so he got lazy and he became self-absorbed. And part of the movie is him learning how to get past that. And so it's a good moral. The water boy is laughing at somebody for being mentally like insufficient. And he's like shown as this like bayou swamp boy. It's funny. Okay, I gotta say it's funny. Me just saying it is funny to me. The water boy upsets me though as watching it alone. Even if I was watching it with friends, I would just be like, I'd just kind of be upset if I'm being real. Um, the ending is, I think watching the ending was the funniest part, where it's just like he like scores the touchdown, and it's like it's doing the whole Adam, like a movie that's so stupid doing the Adam Sandler like wrap up, big movie Adam Sandler wrap up, you know? A movie that's just been over the top stupid is going to be ready to make you laugh with that wrap up, because it's like he scores the touchdown. They throw him into the air. He's like, "I love my mama," and they start holding up signs that say he loves his mama. And it's just like, I do got to give credit. Like, I feel like consistently Adam Sandler movies surprise me. If they're not surprising movies, they surprise me in just like this like shocking, absurd type of way that always leave me like what the fuck? Like even in Billy Madison, it's like he has this like, I mean, not to be over the top and being offensive, but this is a part of Billy Madison. He has like this mammy maid housekeeper character, and she's like sexually attracted to him, and he's just like she's like watching him go up the stairs. She's like that boy's a fine piece of ass. And you watch that and you're just like, what? What? You're watching that and you're just like, what the fuck? Like they hit you at such an angle where you're just like, who the fuck? Like it keeps you on your toes. Now, Big Daddy, this got a Razzie Award. I don't even remember. I think it was Dennis Dugan that also did Big Daddy. And so what else did Dennis Dugan? He did Gilmore, and then he goes and does Big Daddy, right? These are two very similar movies in like, they're very marketable to the general American audience. And this is sort of the genius of Sandler, is like having like a family movie, like a family comedy, even if it's like PG-13 or even rated R. I think Big Daddy's rated R. Having like even if it's rated R, the parents are going to be like, yeah, fuck it, take the kids to see the Sandler movie, whatever. And that's where Sandler shines. It's like I watched this as a kid, Big Daddy, and I loved this movie when I was a kid. So do have childhood attachment, and that's making me want to put it above Happy Gilmore, into like, this is a good old Sandler movie. I might still do it just for the sake of being selfish and putting my shit. I like Big Daddy a lot. It's a sweet movie. It's a sweet movie. It's funny to me. Um, yeah, Big Daddy was probably my first Sandler movie. So there's a special place in your heart for your first Sandler movie, surely, surely. But I think it's sweet. There's a cute kid. Sandler learns to be. He's like, there's a theme where he's like just like a slob, and he can't take care of himself, and he needs like a woman to like fix him. That's got that. That's got This movie has that written all over it. His Wedding Singer, surely. I like it more than Billy Madison though. That's just my opinion. This is just my opinion, man. I think Big Daddy, the only reason it wouldn't be better than Billy Madison to me is because it's like the way it wraps is so like telegraphed Sandler. Like it's similar to the Waterboy, but the Waterboy's been beating you over the head with just this guy being stupid for 90 minutes. It's not gonna this movie doesn't surprise you in the slightest, I don't think, but uh, it's kind of ooey gooey for me. Little Nicky though, I fucking love this movie. I might be, after what I said about Waterboy, you're gonna be really surprised to hear me say that. Little Nicky, well, one, he's not stupid. He's just really socially awkward. He's just like really like socially anxious. The plot, Adam Sandler is um the love child between an angel goddess and the devil, or at least like an archdemon. I think the devil though. And he's in line to take some position in hell, but obviously he's not going to get it because he's not demon enough, right? So they send him to Earth to kind of figure himself out. But a lot of this movie takes place in hell, and this was my defense for it. I've defended this to a couple different people in like semi-recent memory, and my thing was hell and the demons and like characters, like the makeup and special effects. It's or they're practical effects, and there's like a whole constructed set, and it looks like a like this. It's not CG, it's not animated. It's just like they're in a real set that they built, and it's kind of like this. If you've seen Monkey Bone, the person I was talking to about this brought up Monkey Bone, and well, obviously the monkey is CG, but a lot of the other stuff when he goes into the alternate dimension, he goes into the cartoon universe or like his like the realm of his own psyche in Monkey Bone, a Brendan Fraser movie, nonetheless. Monkey Bone, but it's similar where you're like, wow, look at all these practical. People just don't go through the trouble of they're making a movie that's just like this throwaway comedy as we would see it now, but they put this soul. They made a Game Boy Color game about Little Nicky. Like what? It's like they gave a shit. Stephen Brill was nominated. Stephen Brill's the director for Little Nicky, by the way. Stephen Brill was nominated for Razzies for Worst Writer and Director on account of Little Nicky. And when I watched this movie for the first time, it was in pretty recent memory. It was like it was like 2020 when I watched it for the first time. And I was like, I think this actually got aged well. I think that it actually aged in a good way for its better, because this movie was torn apart by critics, and it made Stephen Brill, who was only known for the Mighty Ducks, really, I think, at the point of making Little Nicky. It got him the nomination for Razzies for worst writer and director. He didn't win either one. They might have just not liked his voice. Yeah, his voice is kind of dumb, but if you're gonna like the dumb side of Adam Sandler, I think you got to give Little Nicky a chance. If you like Waterboy, if you like Zohan, if you like Airheads, even Billy Madison, because Billy Madison and Little Nicky are like they're. It's not laughing at you're laughing at him, but it's not because he's mentally deficient. Yeah, I liked this movie. I'm gonna say I liked Little Nicky. Something about it just has this charm. It has this charm. It's funny to me. I don't know. It's like it's very stupid funny. I like Little Nicky, man. That's probably gonna be my biggest hot take of this entire thing. So just know, Little Nicky and maybe Big Daddy a little bit too, saying good. I mean, I'm saying good old Sandman. The Wedding Singer is closer to being S tier, right? These other three, I kind of stand with them being here. They're like a solid time. They're like a good time. These are like, I'd say, give these a chance. But Adam Sandler at his best, what can we say other than Punch Drunk Love? This role was written by fucking Paul Thomas Anderson for Adam Sandler. And Paul Thomas Anderson just says, I thought the guy was funny. I just think he's funny. Wanted to give him a chance to shine. And it's, when we talk about absurdist comedy, what does that mean? It's like things just sort of happen. And it's more of a philosophy. It's Camus. It's about life. Things just sort of happen, and maybe they do go somewhere sometimes, and sometimes they just don't fucking go anywhere. Sometimes things just happen. But examples of that are the movie starts and there's a little piano, and they're always saying what it's actually called, but you know what those little pianos are called. But they call it the little piano for most of the movie anyway. But then somebody comes in, they're like, oh, that's a harmonichord or something. I don't know. They call it what it's actually called. I'm blanking on it right now. Harpsichord, yeah. He has a harpsichord dropped on the side of the road. He's working as a plunger maker. Things like just like things where that doesn't go anywhere. The plungers have no significance. Why is Philip Seymour Hoffman working in a mattress company in Ohio, and he runs the sex line that Adam Sandler owes money to, and so he sends goons after him? It's like that doesn't have anything interconnecting with the crux of the movie, but it does create part of the movie, and it's absurd. It's just absurd. And it's to remind you that life is absurd, love is absurd, punch drunk love. You don't know what the fuck is going on. And this is a great one because to be so adept to take this guy who's kind of like just the SNL comedian of the time. It's like who is Sandler's defined himself with The Wedding Singer the most maybe, and that sort of just came out. He's been in like he's just an SNL guy, but to see something special in him and be like, yeah, I'm gonna take a break from Boogie Nights. Does this shock you? Does this shock you? You know, to take a break, you're like, I just want to make a rom com with Adam Sandler. People would say, you're insane. What? You're Paul Thomas Anderson. No, he knew exactly what he was fucking doing. He understood the assignment. He made Punch Drunk Love, and it reminds us, it reminded everybody, you don't know anything. You don't fucking know a goddamn thing. And that's what Adam Sandler's life is sort of about. Mr. Deeds is funny, kind of. The synopsis of Mr. Deeds is that he is the heir to this like multi-million dollar business like firm in New York, a real estate firm, some kind of big money business belongs to Adam Sandler now because he's the only blood heir, and there's the guy who was like the top guy, the business's top guy, who now has to like transfer the business not into his own hands but into Adam Sandler's hands because he's not blood related to this eccentric billionaire who owned the company. But he was just the guy who was doing all the work for him, and so he's pissed. He's pissed. And Adam Sandler's like living in some like northern like hillbilly town, like Virginia town, where everybody's got like real salt. Everybody's like so like salt of the earth. Everybody knows everybody's name. They're like, yeah, there's crazy Steve Buscemi isn't this one. They're like, yeah, there's Steve Buscemi. He's got crazy cross eyes. He gets the deed. That's. But I mean, the guy. I mean, he is literally named Mr. Deeds also. But he comes in and there's like this um, bitch journalist, and she's gonna take Adam Sandler down because with her like tabloid journalism, and she's gonna get in and seduce him and say, "Oh, I'm just this New York lass," and she like lies to him about her whole identity, but through Adam Sandler's blue collar charm. He wins her over, and she eventually has to come clean and be like, "I'm sorry, I was exploiting you, and I was giving them tabloids, and they were um, character assassinating you on television, and I'm really sorry." And he has to learn to forgive her, or he doesn't have to learn. He just does because he has a giant heart. He has a giant working class uh, country heart. And so you can see where this is why I brought this up with Happy Gilmore. There's like archetypes to Sandlerian characters, and this is sort of like, you know, salt of the earth, big hearted. Like this is like it's another Stephen Brill Sandler movie though. Stephen Brill like between directors, like he kind of tapped into, and of course Sandler is writing a lot of, he's co-writing this, and there's like crossover co-writers who are on all of these movies, or on a lot of these movies together, um, that kind of keep the the Sandler standard in place. How's that for good diction, by the way? It's kind of in that vein of, it's really trying to be sentimental, have good morals. It does exfold good morals, and I just hope that Adam Sandler genuinely does believe those good morals. Um, I mean, it's obviously like drawn out. It's over the top. It's I don't know what more to say about it, but he really pimps it. It's really pimped in these movies, and that's where you kind of get like that's where me meta analyzing. I'm kind of like, okay, interesting. I see what angle you're playing, but and I don't know. I'm not just saying because Adam Sandler, he goes on late night shows, or he'll go on like onto important meetings, and he's in sweatpants, and I gotta wonder, I'm like, what's the real Sandler? Is there layers to the persona of Adam Sandler? Does he really want to be the guy who's like, he goes on TV and he's more like soft spoken, and he's wearing like, he's dressed like so casual? I gotta wonder, is that him playing five-dimensional chess, trying to appear more affable, more everyman? You think that he does like truly like love his life and like love the work that he does? But I'm always asking myself. I'm always like, what's the real thing? Like, because this guy could afford whatever he wants to buy, whatever clothes he wants to buy. He's at a point where you become rich enough to make a, to wearing you get to a point where you're rich enough and then even wearing sweatpants is a fashion statement. So that's my meta analyzing brain. That's my meta thought on the blue collar Sandler. It's kind of solid, kind of mid. I'd say that it falls more into the mid. I might move it up later. I might move some of these up later. I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for this list. Eight Crazy Nights. His first. It's not a Christmas special. Don't call it a Christmas special, because this is a Hanukkah special. This is maybe the first animated Hanukkah movie. Probably not, but it's definitely in the books as a Hanukkah movie. Oh, something I forgot to mention about Big Daddy is that he met his wife on the set of Big Daddy. She plays a waitress in just like one scene. She's not the lead actress. She's not the love interest. She's not any of the top billed cast. She's just a waitress in one small scene. She interacts with the kid. She gives him like a root beer float or something, and um, they met on that set. He falls in love with her, and she appears in like so many movies. You know, I think that I'm really generous to this movie because it's animated, and I just feel like I don't know if they outsourced the animation. I don't know who did the animation. I didn't look that deep into it. Interesting thing about Eight Crazy Nights is that most of the characters are voiced by Adam Sandler. So I think that they just spent the budget on um, the animation, and then they have Sandler voicing like all the main characters, and then like some the female characters are his wife a little bit. But I know that it's just trying to be cartoonish and funny. But there's a scene where somebody makes a joke and it's like a non-joke. It's like an anti-humor kind of humor, maybe kind of similar. There's a lot of anti-humor in his first movie, Going Overboard, as well. To mention that, a lot of like that joke really didn't land, but this one's like somebody says something that doesn't even seem like it's supposed to be remotely funny, and then it's sort of like he pauses like that was supposed to be funny, and then everybody busts down laughing, literally though, and everybody's laughing so hard. And it's at like this huge conference hall, and there's reindeer outside that are looking in through the window, and they start laughing so hard they start shitting all over the place. They just shit everywhere. And then there's another scene where somebody gets turned into a shit icicle. There's Adam Sandler plays this old man who's like the village idiot old man, but he's like actually just like the hardest working guy for the whole town. Kind of similar to Hubbie. It's very similar to Hubbie Halloween, which is at the very tail end of this list. I didn't even get Hubbie Halloween in here, did I? Yo, I forgot Hubbie. No, Hubbie. Okay, it is. It's here. It's here. Crisis averted. Hubbie Halloween is on the list. Adam Sandler starts scraping the bottom of the barrel. His character's like an alcoholic who's become upset about the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah. He doesn't like any of it. He's just tired. He's just so tired because um, he's been wounded. He's been wounded by life, and that part of it is him having to come around. But Adam Sandler also voice acts. He sounds like Carl Weezer for when he's playing this old man. He sounds like Carl Weezer, and I was like, this has to be the voice actor for Carl Weezer, but no, it's Adam Sandler. So Eight Crazy Nights. It's a little bit painful. I'll be real. It's a little bit painful. It is, and it sets itself apart because it's where you're going to see a Hanukkah special and an Adam Sandler cartoon. It's just so it does seem special. It's got a I think this is like one of like the most like mid because and it's only because it's animated. Like if this wasn't, this would be probably like I'm getting tired of this shit tier. I'm gonna be real, but um, I don't know. I really just don't know about this. Not very remarkable to me. I think that you'd forget about this if it weren't like the only Hanukkah movie, only Hanukkah cartoon. I'm sure there's more, but this is a special kind. Anger Management, you know, Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler. That's kind of a crazy duo. This movie upsets me though because it's just Adam Sandler being gaslit for 2 hours. It's like that's not cool. But I mean, I guess it's it's really not cool what they do to Adam Sandler in this movie. I'm gonna be real. They just gaslight him for 2 hours, and it's to make him a better person? Question mark. I think that there's a funny part. There's a funny part where Jack Nicholson makes Adam Sandler park in the middle of traffic, and he makes him sing I feel pretty, oh so pretty, and that's sort of that was probably the most memorable part of the movie for me. But otherwise, I'm just like blown away. Adam Sandler keeps accidentally assaulting people, but that was like all part of their like master plan to like hire crisis actors to pretend to be assaulted by Adam Sandler or to like stand in like the way while Adam Sandler was like trying to like restrain someone else, and then he like accidentally elbows like a waitress in the face, and then she presses charges against him and makes him and forces him to go to the psychiatrist, the anger management psychiatrist played by Jack Nicholson, and then Jack Nicholson is like, "Yeah, sorry, we were gaslighting you the whole time. You were actually not even under arrest. It was all part of a." And the entire city of New York collaborated to gaslight Adam Sandler, and that just doesn't sit right with me. But it is kind of funny, and that is kind of ridiculous. That there you go with the really it's not absurdist. This movie I wouldn't call absurdist, but it's just the shocking levels of the absurd levels that and the lengths that some of these movies will go to try to surprise you, to try to like you know because some of these movies are not surprising, and we're getting to one right now, 51st Dates. This is cool in concept. I think that for just conceptually, and it's another Drew Barrymore Adam Sandler movie, and something that it does do better than Wedding Singer is Drew Barrymore is the most important character, hands down, and she's an important plot point. It's that Drew Barrymore is living in the same day every day that she wakes up. She loses her memory and she thinks that it's the same date, and and so an entire town in Hawaii collaborates to gaslight Drew Barrymore into being comfortable because she's like, "Oh, I'm going to do what I was planning to do this day every single day." And so they set out specifically the same newspaper for her to read for that date at the same cafe that she was planning to go that morning. And so she gets the same thing every morning. She gets like waffles every morning at the same cafe, and she reads the same newspaper, and her father and her brother just sort of collaborate with the town to organize this gaslight psyop for Drew Barrymore because I mean they don't know what else to do. She just freaks out every time she realizes it's been years since. Every time she gets it explained to her, she freaks out. And there's like some traumatic, like I don't know if like the event that causes her, it's like a car crash. And I think maybe her mom also dies, and so they're living without her mother, and so she's like doesn't know that. There's something traumatic that's going to like cause her to freak out every day. Maybe it's just that she was horribly injured and she like a lot of time has passed. But you see that happen at a couple junctures. It's just like Adam Sandler just like brute force. It's just like you're living a lie, and she's like ah! And she falls in love with him again, and it's just like I'm so glad you told me. Wakes up the next morning, she's just like, who are you? It's a really captivating concept. So for that, I will say it's a good time. It is a solid sandling. I think it's like Gilmore tier for me. Um, I don't think it's one of the great ones. I might change it. I might move Gilmore and 51st Dates up. We'll have to see. Is Bulletproof better than Airheads? Got to think about it some more. Who gets gaslit in Spanglish? Um, the Mexican, of course, by a white family. What are you gonna do? What can you say? Just kidding. Adam Sandler is trying to stop the gaslight. I think Adam Sandler plays a chef, and this is the first movie where Adam Sandler isn't like a traditional, really like funny man either. He's not really being funny in this movie. Even in Punch Drunk Love, he's not. He's supposed to be funny. In Spanglish, he's really this isn't like a comedy. This is his maybe it's maybe marketed a bit as a comedy, but this is really a solid drama movie. More of a mother-daughter immigrant movie is Spanglish. And then the housekeeper who barely speaks any English, that's why it's called Spanglish, is because they're like working backwards with each other, trying to like learn each other's languages and have like halfway conversations. That's why it's called Spanglish. Because Adam Sandler and the lead actress, they have to separate because it's about like identity. And so it's an interesting picture. It's kind of like you could accuse this movie of like being too too like liberal academia level self-congratulatory in its writing. But I think if you were to show an alien, and I literally mean like an extraterrestrial alien, this movie, it would be a nice little like time capsule of like American culture, and I mean like true like culture of the Americas, not just the United States. It's this like interesting. It's this very like I'd imagine like this is a movie that if you were in Mass Effect, like they should be showing the fucking Solarians this movie. You know what I'm saying? That might be I might be crazy, but I'm gonna put this in like the Wedding Singer. This is a good one. I think this is for Sandler too. I think this is a nice role for him because it shows it's like ever so slightly stretching his range of characters because he can kind of play like this like cool guy like fathers. He's probably become a father himself at this point. Yeah, he definitely has, father of daughters, and so you see that that's something that Sandler does really well is like he takes his own life into the movies, especially like serious roles that he has to do. And you can't rush greatness because The Longest Yard is here upon us. I think this is a funny movie. Deeper into the Adam Transler lore, Tracy Morgan is like a prison. I don't want to say that. He's like he he's like a androgynous prison. You know what I'm saying. He's like being a girl in prison. They make Tracy Morgan be like head bitch of the prison girls in male prison. You understand what I'm getting at, surely. Um, so why would Adam Sandler choose to put that in a movie? I don't know if it was him, but there's definitely somebody uh, a little bit ahead of the game. But Longest Yard is a funny movie to me. It's a little like Chris Rock's role is offensive. They have prison guards say the N word in this movie, and to me that was less offensive than the character that Chris Rock plays. Football movie also. I like it more than Waterboy. I'd say it's a pretty good one. I think I like this one more than Happy Gilmore too. I just think this is a funny movie. This movie's absurd. He has to play basketball to like win respect from the black prisoners. It's just ridiculous. Sandler in that kind of role, but he has to be like a cool guy. They give Adam Sandler like Adam Sandler's payback for having to be the stooge in so many movies. At this point, like he's like, okay, finally I get to be this like action hero, tough guy, cool guy. I think it's kind of funny. I think that the humor in this is pretty well done. Who directed this one? Oh, Peter Segal. Yeah, Anger Management, 50 First Dates, and Longest Yard are all. They're all in. I put them all in solid. They're all by Peter. But yeah, Longest Yard. It doesn't surprise you that much, but I think it's funny. Now, Click is a hard one for me because Click was an early one that I watched, so I think that I imprinted on this one. But if I'm being real, Click. I mean, it's like a family movie. I'd say show your kids this movie. What do you remember about this? I mean, he's got the time space continuum bullshit going on. He's skipping forward in his life. He's supposed to be learning some life lessons, good life lessons. This should be with Mr. Deeds. Adam Midler. Is that my take? It's mid. I think this is on the crux right now. He skips forward. He's morbidly obese. He's like, damn, that sucks. I'm divorced and morbidly obese. He skips farther forward. His kids are like grown up. He had to get surgery. He had to get liposuction. He has a flap. This is like the most Adam. Everybody thinks about this movie. This is maybe a definitive Adam Sandler movie where it's so mid. It's like I don't really think poorly of this movie, but I don't really think anything about this movie. But I kind of like this movie. If I'm being real, I kind of like Mr. Deeds too. I told you guys I kind of like Zohan. Waterboy I think is funny, somewhat, but I think it's better than Zohan for its humor. But it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard with these movies. But a movie that I do feel something strongly about is Reign Over Me. People aren't familiar with this one. In this one, Adam Sandler plays it's Don Cheadle, and for a lot of this movie, it's more of a Don Cheadle movie, and Don Cheadle is great in this movie. Um, Don Cheadle plays like some sort of doctor, maybe a dentist. Yeah, I think it's a dentist, and he's having some weird, absurd things happening to him where there's a woman who is just becomes like fixated on him, and he's married, but she's like, my therapist said that I should be more liberated, and I really just feel safe with you. And she's like coming onto Don Cheadle strong, and he's just like, he's like uncomfortable. He doesn't even want it because and he's also like trying to be faithful to his wife, and so a lot of that's about like Don Cheadle and his like managing like having to had settled in his life, like being settled in his life and having like restrictions. And then he comes across his old college roommate who he loved. You know, they were great friends, but they fell off from each other, and Don Cheadle kind of doesn't know what happened to his old roommate. So Adam Sandler comes, he's like on like a scooter, like a motorized scooter, and he's just like listening to music. He looks disheveled. He looks like, what is he even doing? He looks like a bum kind of. And Don Cheadle's like, "Hey man, I want to catch up with you. What's going on?" And at first Adam Sandler doesn't recognize Don Cheadle, and Don Cheadle's like hurt. He's like, "Why? How does my old roommate not remember me?" But then the next time he sees him, Adam Sandler's like, "Oh yeah, I do remember you." But Don Cheadle goes on to find out, Adam Sandler's no longer married. He had children that Don Cheadle didn't really know about. But Don Cheadle comes to find out that Adam Sandler's wife and children died in 9/11. Cheadle was like, "Oh shit!" But Adam Sandler was awarded like $1 million, large sum of money, for his loss by the state of New York, and so he's just living as like a hermit in his apartment, and he'll like play the drums. He's like playing Shadow of the Colossus. Like Shadow of the Colossus is like a motif of this movie. There's multiple external media, pieces of external media that are motifs of this movie. Shadow of the Colossus is one of them. The title "Reign Over Me" is a reference to the song from The Who, "Love Reign Over Me," and I mean it's spelled like OER. That's why I'm saying it like that. But I like this movie a lot because Adam Sandler has to like unravel his trauma, his range. You really see the elasticity of Adam Sandler being able to play this role, because there's some scenes where he has to monologue. There's some scenes where he has to get deep into it, and I'm like crossing my fingers and praying. I'm like, please don't fuck this up. Like this is gonna be a great movie if Adam Sandler doesn't like funny guy this, or even like just like lose himself. But something that I heard was that this movie comes out after the death of his father, and his father is the golfer on Happy Madison, the opening, and his father means a lot to him. And I'm not going to say that because Adam Sandler's father died, he was able to channel this, but that's something that people have made reference to. I just think it's an interesting thing, and this is the most serious role, more serious than Spanglish. This is the heaviest role Adam Sandler's had to do. You really see Adam Sandler's range, his acting range is pushed farther than we've seen it at this point in his career. And for that, I'm like, this is Adam Sandler at his best. I think he pulls it off really well. My qualm with this movie is not Adam Sandler's acting. It's that this movie was like nailing it, nailing it, nailing it, nailing it. It was doing like nice, like subtle things where it was restrained. It showed restraint where a lot of other Adam Sandler movies don't show restraint in the writing, or like translating the writing to a finished product. Like for example, there's a scene where he's talking to his therapist, and he's like, Adam Sandler is deranged in this movie. Like he is scarred. He's like mentally unwell, and he has to communicate with this therapist. And so Don Cheadle puts him on to his therapist, who's this young woman, and she's fresh and adept enough to really give him the care that he deserves and needs. But she's a young, beautiful woman, and so and she's wearing like this. It's like somewhat low cut shirt, and it's getting to a point where Adam Sandler is like closing up. He's tensing up. He's not letting anything out. And she's like, how can I help you if you won't let me in? And he's like, because your fucking tits are out and I can't focus on anything else. He says something like that, all deranged. And it's funny, but it's also brutal. It's not played for laughs. It's not like Barzupal type of line. It's like he's like having a breakdown, and it's funny and it's sad and it's really cool. And then in the next scene, it shows her wearing a sweater, and I was like, don't have Adam Sandler be like, "Oh, and thank you for wearing that sweater," because the audience needs to be we need to point it out to the audience that we made this decision. We made this decision in the direction of the wardrobe. We need to remind the audience that, that we're competent filmmakers. And it doesn't do that. Where I feel like a lot of other movies on this list would have tried to do some phony shit like that, you know. And for that, I have a lot of respect for this movie. The one takeaway though is that Adam Sandler, it's like the last 10 minutes, it's like it's like the last 10 minutes didn't get workshopped or something because the writing kind of like stumbles a little bit. It does have like there's like a scene where uh they look at the well, in Adam Sandler's apartment there's a kitchen, and he's going through cycles of remodeling it because that's the last thing that him and his wife were doing before she died, and he's like, I got to make this kitchen perfect. It's part of his neurosis. So this kitchen is part of his like unfinished business with his wife. It was like they were arguing about it before she died, and it's like staining his mind. And he finishes it at the end as part of like the closure. And then the parents of the daughter come in and see the kitchen after Adam Sandler's moved out. He's not talking to them anymore because of their strained relationship. Um, but they say some goofy shit. They were like, she would have loved this kitchen, and I'm like, oh, they just what were they short on time and they didn't workshop the end of the movie? And there's other stuff that's like so it's like a little bit corny, and so it's like a great movie that doesn't quite nail the last 10 minutes of it. I won't even say doesn't nail the landing. It's like the last 10 minutes are just like didn't get workshopped, or they got like it was like they workshopped the movie without having the last 10 minutes even existing or something. I don't know, but it kind of made me sad. It just I feel like but the problem that people have with this movie is the incorporation of 9/11 as a plot point in the movie, as far as what my research showed me. So if you're wondering why you haven't seen Reign Over Me, if you haven't, that's or even heard of it, maybe that's probably why. Bedtime Stories. It's a children's movie. This is a Disney movie. It's directed by the same director of Hairspray. That's probably their most well-received picture. Hairspray. So, guy makes Hairspray, turns around, Sandler Disney movie. What do you say? Um, this is not a very interesting movie, if I'm being real. It's for kids, granted. Um, but the directing chops or the ability or the production chops kind of show through because I can really see that the person who would have made Hairspray really pulled off some of the scenes that Bedtime Stories provides, because there's some really cartoonish scenes that are kind of uncanny. They're kind of too much CG, but there's this real set, and it's like looking at you're almost looking at a Wes Anderson movie at the beginning of this movie. It's like these like pastel like California hotel. He sells the hotel to this bigwig. Adam Sandler's father does. He sells the hotel, and the one condition is that um, he has to keep Sandler in as a major role, because he's like, I wanted my kid to always have a place to live by buying this hotel. And so Sandler works for the hotel. He gets to live at the expense of the hotel, I believe, or something like that. Well, he at least is always never looking for a job, but so he's like the janitor of a hotel now. Is what that's his life. Adam Sandler again. Sandler gets to play a like kind of like working class hero type of character, akin to Mr. Deeds. Oh, Russell Brand is in this movie. He's Russell Brand is funny in this movie. He's like stupid. He's like really stupid in this movie. Um, I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know what to say about this one. This is kind of like this one's worse than Click in how mid it is, I think. I yeah, I think it goes at the bottom of mid. Oh, I skipped Chuck and Larry. This is a movie that I actually like. This is a movie that I actually like. I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry is probably like nobody is allowed to like this movie except for me. So this might deserve its own tier. Steve Buscemi is in this movie. Steve Buscemi is the heel of this movie. He's the antag. Okay, let me take a step back. Adam Sandler and Kevin James are firefighters. Essentially, for Kevin James to keep custody of his kids and also like his possessions, he has to get married, or else his ex-wife is going to take everything from him. Kevin James has to get married. Who's he going to marry? Guess what? this is coming at a time period where they just legalized gay marriage in New York. So now Kevin James gets the bright idea to marry his best friend, who is like this like playboy firefighter, Adam Sandler, who's a pussy hound. He's a hound for pussy. He loves women, and he's like, "What do you think I am? Some kind of F slur?" Adam Sandler uses the F slur in this joint, but he learns the error of his ways when he has to assume the role of a gay bottom so that Kevin James can maintain his family. And in being one of the girls, Adam Sandler learns a lesson that homophobia is bad. He learns his lesson. He's like, I was one of the gays for about 2 months, and um, in my time being Kevin James's um, sub, he wrote the entire script to Jack and Jill, and that's why this movie is solid. And I probably like it more than all of these movies, if I'm being real. I probably like it. I probably like it as much as like Happy Gilmore. It's kind of it's like over the top. Steve Buscemi. Oh, Steve Buscemi plays like a uh, a detective trying to find people who are scamming the government with fake gay marriages. And so he's really the hero of this movie, trying to save the world from uh, assholes like like Adam Sandler and Kevin James. But for the purpose of this movie, he's the antagonist. But everybody kind of figures that themselves out. They all come clean. They do something good. They wrap it up. It's not very surprising. It's kind of shocking. David Spade cross dresses in this movie, which he goes on to do in Jack and Jill as well. So let's go on to Grown Ups. I don't fucking like this movie. I'm tired of this shit, dude. I'm sick of this shit. With Grown Ups, there's who is it? What's her name? Maya Rudolph is like milking herself. That's one of my big takeaways from Grown Ups. Is like there's a lot of just body humor. And it's like that might be fine, but with Grown Ups, I'm just like, did they even try? There's a lot of nostalgia. They're like, oh, remember when we were kids and we did this? I just think that it's kind of low hanging. This is kind of a personal opinion thing too. I don't like this movie. This is an interesting movie because it's just got all of the Sandler people like Rob Schneider, Kevin James, Chris Rock. Um, I creeped more recently than I've seen the full movie of Grown Ups. I creeped on the sequel, which is sort of that's the reason that there are no sequels is because I peeked at Grown Ups 2, and Grown Ups 2. Let me tell you, this is how it starts. A CGI deer wanders into Adam Sandler and Selma Hayek's bedroom, and Selma Hayek wakes up and screams, and the deer stands up on its hind legs and pisses all over Adam Sandler, and then runs and is like running around the house, destroying everything. Watched Grown Ups with the boys and was thoroughly enjoyable. Probably, probably. I'm just being a naysayer. I'm being a naysayer to Grown Ups. I have a problem with this movie. Maybe irresponsibly. We'll see how things go. I think that there are definitely worse Adam Sandler movies. This is mid. This is at least mid. At most mid to me. Just go with it. This is also who did Just Go with it? Uh yeah, same director of Grown Ups actually. Grown Ups was directed by Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy Guy. So if you like that type of Sandler movie, Grown Ups might be in your tier, and maybe so we'll just go with it. Just Go with that is interesting because it's Jennifer Aniston, Adam Sandler. You know, Adam Sandler makes a good rom-com. We can say that for sure. So can Jennifer Aniston. So what happens when we put them together and see what kind of comedy duo they are? You know, it's all right. It's all right. You know, they got some good chemistry. I think they have better chemistry, maybe debatably better chemistry than Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. Because Drew Barrymore's a little bit too much of a sweetheart for the Sandman. The Sandman is that a little bit too better than he deserves? Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point. But just go with it, and really just the relationship between Sandler and Jennifer Aniston kind of makes sense because they seem like they deserve each other. And that's what this whole movie's about because Adam Sandler at the beginning of this movie has a fucked up Jewish nose. It's like ridiculous. It's like it is, if Adam Sandler wasn't Jewish himself, we would call this anti-Semitism if you looked at it. But he's marrying. It's funny. His wife in the movie, or his wife in real life, plays the woman at the beginning of the movie that he's getting married to. And he overhears her talking to her bridesmaids, and she's like, oh, I won't cheat on him that much. I mean, yeah, he's got a shit dumb looking nose. That nose she's making fun of how gigantic his nose is. And she's like, but at least he got a good job as a doctor. My parents love that. I won't cheat on him that much. She says something like that, and then all her friends, her evil cackling wenches, laugh at what she just said. But Adam Sandler is standing outside, and he's crying with his giant nose. He's crying into his giant nose. He's just like, how could this happen? How could this happen? And so he goes out. He's leaves her at the altar. Doesn't get married. He goes out to the bar. He's got his wedding ring on. He's looking at it. He's sad. The hottest babe of the night walks into the bar, and she's like, "What are you doing here, married guy?" And he's like, "Oh, my wife. She sucks. She said mean things about me. She hates me. And he gets pity sex out of it. Stops being whatever surgeon he was being to be a plastic surgeon, and he gets rid of his giant nose, and then he gets to take off the prop nose and be normal Adam Sandler nose. And who works at his plastic surgery office other than Jennifer Aniston? And she's like his best pal, and they're like bros. She's more like a bro to him when it comes around to him actually finding what he thinks is the love of his life. And this just like, she can be described as a walking pair of tits. It ends up where they all have to take a group trip to Hawaii because Adam Sandler just loves going to Hawaii in his movies, and he's just likes getting the free vacation. And you'll see that a lot of these movies are free vacations, and that's one of the reasons I don't like Grown Ups. But I mean, when you think about like how gratuitous it is that 50 First Dates and Just Go With It are just essentially free vacations to Hawaii. He's always writing in eating shrimp too. Like Adam Sandler's like, look, we got to write in a scene where I'm eating shrimp. Remember to do that. A lot of these movies are just vacations, budgets that exist to give Adam Sandler a free vacation. Adam Sandler and Friends and Company a free. Something about Just Go With It is that I don't know how they do it. I don't know if it's just like the simplistic, easy to understand nature of an Adam Sandler movie is good for kids, but I feel like the kids in Just Go With It were some of the best child actors that I've seen, just for no reason. Like they were charming. They were like theater kids. Like they had like a good theater kid energy to them. It just worked. It just worked for Just Go With It for the kids. But I maybe forgot to drop the point is that it turns out Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston trying to help her boss, who is Adam Sandler, seduce his love interest, his supposed love of his life. They both kind of find, hey, we actually have a lot in common. We're actually a good kind of duo. Maybe I shouldn't be marrying this like 20-something-year-old supermodel tier human, and maybe I should be marrying the real love of my life, which is my best friend, Jennifer Aniston. That's the movie. I spoiled the movie because I'm getting tired of this shit, but also it's kind of mid. Also solid. I don't know. Probably better than Click if I'm being real. But we're all here to see. We're all here to see the Jack and Jill take. Now, with Jack and Jill, what can we say about Jack and Jill? What can we say about Jack and Jill? Would transitioning have saved her? Would transitioning have saved Adam Sandler? What can we say about this movie? This movie is famous for sweeping the Razzies. This movie got 10 Razzies. It won 10 Razzies. The first movie to do that. I'm a sucker for Dunkachino. That is great. This movie has Little Nicky level of aging. I don't know if it's as good as Little Nicky or as bad good as Little Nicky. That's another thing to be said about Little Nicky is if anti-humor is pulled off in the right kind of way, it can kind of be legendary. And Jack and Jill kind of has that energy, Jack and Jill kind of has that anti-humor energy. And it's just so fucking crazy. It's just that the writing is so weird. It's like so like you see Adam Sandler in drag like baby talking himself. And it's just like it will do something to you cognitively. It will do something to the viewer. It's a strange kind of hypnotism. Something else to be said about this movie is that Bruce Jenner, and I do mean Bruce Jenner, appears in this movie. It's Caitlyn Jenner before transition is well, Al Pacino is doing like Broadway shows, and Bruce Jenner is appearing in one of those Broadway shows. They're like doing Hamlet or some insane shit. This movie is insane, and that's what I'm saying. Where Adam Sandler has just insane factor in his movies. He has the literal madness factor where you're like, I don't even know what to say about this. It's just so fucking crazy that Adam Sandler is in a movie where he's 50% of the time he's on screen, he's cross-dressing is insane. And then that Al Pacino he's trying to seduce Al Pacino into making a Dunkin' Donuts commercial for a real Dunkin' Donuts product is also insane. And that Al Pacino falls in love with cross-dressing Adam Sandler and is like aggressively trying to fuck female Adam Sandler is insane. And David Spade appears to have like a drag battle with Adam Sandler toward the end. Like there's like a group of friends and and David Spade is like playing a like high school bimbo bitch who um would like bully the Sandler siblings, Jack and Jill. I don't like that it's called Jack and Jill. That's kind of corny ass name. But I mean, what else are you gonna call this shit? Um, this movie is, if you cannot say that this movie is forgettable, which is something a leg up that it has on shit like Bedtime Stories. Grown Ups is forgettable to me. I'm sorry. Um, Click is kind of forgettable. Mr. Deeds is, I don't know. Just Go With It might be kind of forgettable. Anger Management, like it would be forgettable if it wasn't for the immense levels of gaslighting. This movie is like in it's it's in a league of its own, really. And you might be able to say that about Little Nicky, like, but I just think Little Nicky I can argue for so much better. Jack and Jill I really can't. Aside from that, it is so insane. It is just like unhinged, and it's not even that funny. It's just unhinged, which is almost scary, which makes it just I don't even know. I don't even know. A tier, man. No, I don't know. How can it be A tier? No, this isn't. It's so insane. This shit will break your brain. If you actually try to watch Jack and Jill, it like breaks your mind. And I think that there's something really interesting to me about that. There's something really captivating to me about that. Well, we're just gonna say it. Adam Sandler has autogonophilia. That's all there is to it. I think to be an actor and to be in Hollywood and to be somebody to seek attention in the way that a comedian would, I think it's a pretty much a no-brainer that you're probably going to have some sort of paraphilia like autogonophilia or just autophilia in general. And you know. So this is not a great movie. This is actually just a bad movie. I think that winning that many Razzies like redeems you though. I think that so bad it's good like works with Jack and Jill. So it's got to be in solid. But I can't in good conscience give it a say that it's good. It's literally just insane. Why do you think Jack and Jill is one of the most critically panned movies on Rotten Tomatoes and elsewhere? That's a good question. That's a good question. Jack and Jill is really cringe. Like if you try to watch it, it's like it is taxing in the way that That's My Boy is taxing, in the way that uh, Eight Crazy Nights, Zohan, Grown Ups, those are all very like taxing movies to watch because of how stupid it can get, and like it's beyond childish where it's just like they have like an Indian child that they've adopted or something. It's just and like weird decisions like that are just like it's just weird and it's cringe and it has bad writing, but and it doesn't have good pacing. It doesn't have good pacing for one. So a lot of things are just bad about this movie, but things like Dunkachino and just Adam Sandler being in drag and like being so excited to play this character and it's just like and like examining the pathologies but behind Adam Sandler like in this role and like deciding to do this. It's just like To me, that's captivating, but the movie itself is so hard to it's hard to get through. It's not paced very well, and you kind of got to wait. And it's got like humor where it's like there's a point where Adam Sandler has to pretend to be Jill, his actual female self. So Adam Sandler's the Jack character has to cross dress to be the cross dressing version of himself. And so there's two Jills essentially, and he does it to seduce Al Pacino into agreeing to do Dunkachino. But then, um, in the process of doing that, he gets drunk and he's like mad that Al Pacino even is attracted to his sister to begin with. So he's just like, why would you even like her? She's ugly and fat and stupid. And then Al Pacino has to like go and like talk about why he's in love with Jill. And you're just like, at this point, you're just like, you're probably like an hour and a half into the movie or something like that. This is like the tail end of the movie, and you're like, your brain is just destroyed, and you're listening to Al Pacino be so down bad for Adam Sandler in drag, and then he's like actually like coming after the male Adam Sandler in drag, pretending to be Jill. But of course, Jill is just a drag version of Adam Sandler. It's so mind breaking. It's so mind breaking. Now I'm going in circles really. You're down the Sandler hole with this movie, and it's just I think that so many things are done wrong, but a lot of things this movie has aged very well. That's all I'll say. It's aged very well. It hasn't made the things that are bad about it better. It's just that it's funny, man. It's just karma. What can I say? Jack and Jill, if I were to make another tier for Jack and Jill, which I don't feel like doing right now, but this is the karma tier. This is the cycle of life, death, and rebirth right here with Jack and Jill. And I wish that it brought us out of the Sandler Dark Ages, but you got to wait a little bit for that. That's My Boy is a taxing movie. This movie to me is worse than Jack and Jill. Comes out right after. This is like really cementing the dark ages of like. And I think people tried to like argue like, oh, this is him making a comeback. He's funny again. This movie is just kind of like trying. This movie like is forgettable. Well, first of all, Andy Samberg was born to a woman in prison because Adam Sandler, as a high schooler, knocked up his math teacher or something, one of his high school teachers, and everybody's like, hell yeah, giving him high fives and shit. She gets arrested, goes to prison, pregnant, and she gives birth in prison, and it's just shipped to this high schooler's house, and he's like, damn, guess I'm raising a kid now. So it's like the reverse. It's like Big Daddy, except it's a high schooler. No, but you don't really see any of that. But he does do ridiculous shit to Andy Samberg, like tattoo his back as a child. Hotel Transylvania is kind of mid to me. It's a kids movie. This might be okay. I don't really like it. I think it's better than Eight Crazy Nights. Eh. It's an animated movie. It's more of a movie about Adam Sandler's daughter and Jonathan. Jonathan, you were banging my daughter. A good meme came out of that. That's pretty funny. I like that meme. They ended up making like a bunch of spin-offs of and like sequels to Hotel Transylvania. I think that this was a commercially successful movie. Um, it's just kind of a DreamWorks. I think it's a DreamWorks animated comedy. It's not going to really surprise you. It's about Adam Sandler learning to like let go. Another role where he's like this like overly protective father, which I know that he feels probably in real life. Being the father of daughters, being the father to daughters, like a big theme of a lot of his parenthood movies, which this is I would categorize as one of them. A lot of that, um, a lot of his ethos in that is just learning how to like let go and be allow his daughters to not be the little girl anymore and be a grown up. And funny enough, that happens in Blended as well. This is like a um, this is simultaneously a throwback movie and a modernization of Wedding Singer. The director of Wedding Singer came back to direct the latest Drew Barrymore Sandler rom com. I think this one's a little bit something something I he was drinking the Sandler Kool-Aid a little too much. I think that he probably watched Jack and Jill back to back with like Just Go With It or some shit. And so he starts making Blended and he's been drinking the Sandler Kool-Aid where he's just gone unhinged as well. Because I will say this movie, it's not as insane as Jack and Jill, but it just make it's where Drew Barrymore's two sons and Adam Sandler's three daughters all sort of very conveniently get to go on vacation, go on a couple's vacation to Africa, and it's a specific like resort, and the theme of this time in the resort's itinerary is blending uh, families, in that there's like families where divorced families maybe, or like families that just find themselves bringing on like new members, are um, trying to go on a vacation to bond. And so this movie kind of suffers from what I was talking about earlier, where The Wedding Singer has a pretty big ensemble, like a pretty nice ensemble, but it does a good balancing. I think that the ensemble, unfortunately, does in Wedding Singer does lead to like Drew Barrymore being kind of overshadowed. And this one, it's like everybody kind of gets like equal screen time, but there's just so many characters in this that they kind of drown. It kind of drowns. And there's also Terry Crews is like every time he's on screen, there's a bunch of African guys singing behind him. And so Terry Crews will be like singing, and there's all these African guys. They're like, "A wee moe," and so that's like really like over the top, and just it's perturbing, I will say. It's concerning to me. And so Terry Crews will like narrate through song what's happening. What you've already watched it happen, but then a bunch of African men will be doing like this like parlor chorus of r- recap of what's happening in the movie, and it's very damaging to your brain to witness that. I'd say it's like I don't know if I feel like I was trying to think when I was watching it. I was like, yeah, maybe this is better than just go with it, but it's really on the same tier. It's kind of schlock. It's kind of, I mean, a lot of Adam Sandler movies are just that, but um, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one. It's kind of just pretty mid. We're at the Cobbler, and I regret to say that the Cobbler is pretty mid. It's pretty mid. Cobble me, daddy. That the Cobbler is pretty forgettable to me, except for the caveat that Steve Buscemi was it better on a rewatch. I'd say it's like not very memorable, except that Steve Buscemi might as well be God in this movie. If you remember, Adam Sandler has magical properties where he can heal any shoe, he can redeem any shoe. So that's kind of like it's kind of like what Adam Sandler does in real life, except I don't know if he can save every shoe. He can't save every movie, but we'd like to think that he can. And so Steve Buscemi comes in and he says, "This is a huge spoiler, but I don't think that it matters for the Cobbler." With the Cobbler, Steve Buscemi essentially reveals that he is God, and everybody who kind of knew, you know, you can kind of intuit that Steve Buscemi is God because he speaks for God in Spy Kids 2, Island of Lost Dreams. And he says some very profound things in that child's movie, and it really had an effect on my developing mind, and my entire outlook and philosophy on life uh, was affected by Steve Buscemi and his role in that movie. Do you think God also hides in heaven because he too fears what he's created? And I'm kind of exaggerating because it's really like Steve Buscemi is Adam Sandler's father, and it's this huge reveal, and he's like a wizard. Steve Buscemi is a wizard, and so that's so it doesn't forgive. The Cobbler has similar problems to Jack and Jill. It's not as gratuitous. It has like slow pacing. It has like it doesn't get to the point. It's like not enough of a movie that it has to kind of like run around in circles a little bit to meet the feature length runtime. But the payoff is golden with the Cobbler. Is it solid for that reason? It's kind of mid, and I don't. Jack and Jill's a bat, just like actually of like simultaneously like enjoyable and also like very tiresome. Um, but with the Cobbler's like in a whole different like tier. In fact, you know, I think that I think this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. But there's some Sandler movies that are just completely carried by Steve Buscemi. What can we say about Pixels? Pixels is very interesting. It has the creator of Pac-Man in it, Toru Iwata. Toru Iwata cameos in this movie, so that's pretty cool. It's directed by Chris Columbus, and no, that is not the person who found America for the Spanish Empire. That is the man who directed movies such as Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2 and Mrs. Doubtfire and a lot of other movies that you might be surprised were directed by the same guy who directed Pixels. But he directs this movie, and it's sort of an homage to video games. It's pretty mid, unfortunately, but I don't like this movie. Something about it is just wrong to me. Kevin James is president. It's not. It's not a. That's weird. This movie is weird. I'm really tired. I'm really tired. I'm really tired of this. No, I think I put this. I think I ranked the Zohan higher than Pixels. Damn. When I was watching Pixels, I was like, this is okay. Hey, Peter Dinklage is in this movie. Ridiculous Six, parody of the Magnificent Seven. Because they made, I guess Tarantino made The Hateful Eight, and then Sandler was like, hey, I want to make a Blazing Saddles style movie with who does this? Okay, Frank Corky. The Ridiculous Six is just a Western. I think that I can give this movie credit for its Western sets. It's got a lot of actors. I think this is like the least Rob Schneider has been the butt of the joke in Adam Sandler movies, because usually Rob Schneider just takes like the biggest douche like pieces of shit. Like they drag. Rob Schneider is like, he takes some abuse as far as like taking his licks and like bad roles. Like he's known for that. Like Rob Schneider is like, he's fed some shit, dude, for his career to exist. Like he has to, like, I know that he's like this short, funny looking guy who's unattractive and whatever, but like, damn, dude. They do Rob Schneider pretty dirty in a lot of movies, but this is maybe the first one where they're like, okay, you can be like middle of the pack as far as he's just like a Mexican. Like the whole joke is Rob Schneider is Mexican. He has a donkey that shits everywhere. That's it. And he like, I don't know. He's like, my burro, I'm Mexican. And Rob Schneider actually is Mexican, or he's like some sort of Hispanic. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's Mexican. And at least partially. And Taylor Lautner is really the like the butt of the joke. He's like so stupid, and it's funny though. I think that he's good for it, and I think that him being he's literally like inbred. If you like Waterboy, you liked Taylor Lautner's character in Ridiculous Six. It is lengthier. Adam Sandler is a really straight edge character in this movie. He's the straight man. That's what I mean to say. He's been raised by Native Americans, and so he's like very stoic and peaceful and spiritual, and has good and he's like just a badass. He's got like Apache war powers, as you know, just as it happens. You know, you're raised by Apaches, you've got like superhuman abilities. Obviously, that's how it goes in the West. But it's kind of over the top, kind of silly. It's supposed to be like, you know, this is supposed to be his Blazing Saddles. It's his take. It's his turn on Blazing Saddles. I don't think it's Blazing Saddles. I haven't even seen all of Blazing Saddles, you know, so sue me, you know, but I don't think, you know, it's got some racial comedy, but it's not, I think that everybody gets made fun of in this movie, so it's pretty fair. It's not very surprising to me. It's just kind of like I say, it's the Runaway Mountain effect that a lot of Sandler movies have, where it's not very surprising. So I'm gonna say it's actually mid, but I think that it's one of the better mids. The Adam Sandler Dark Ages. It's not pretty, okay? It's not pretty. And that's where the do-over comes in. This movie is just sucks, dude. I don't know what to say. It's just not interesting. There's action somewhat. There's twists also. There's maybe that. So there's a little bit of humor, there's a little bit of action. David Spade's character is they're co-stars. So David Spade is just as important. And I just really hate, like, they do him dirty. Like, he's one of these comedy roles where he's just so, like, abused as far as, like, the writing goes. It's just, like, I just don't even like this guy. It's like, his life sucks. I don't like him. That's his whole thing, is that his life is supposed to suck so hard that Adam Sandler can go through with making him fake his own death away straight to Netflix. Like this is like one of the most straight to Netflix movies you'll ever see. It's The Do Over. Watch one of his worst movies, worse than Grown Ups to me. I really don't. Don't fuck with it. I don't fuck with it. Funny People. Now this movie may seem like it's not going to surprise you. I think this movie might surprise you. This movie is like I missed this. This was earlier in Adam Sandler's career. This was more in like the pre Hotel Transylvania blended era. So this was like right. This was like after Click, between Click and Pixels, kind of. So Funny People is kind of this like early 2010s. Is that what we can say? Maybe late 2000s comedy drama. It's really more of a drama because it's about Adam Sandler dealing with having cancer. He's a famous comedian for one thing. He's a famous actor comedian, so he plays essentially himself or like a characterization of someone in a very similar position to him. And so right off the bat, it being a character study of something of like this Sandler archetype is really cool to me. And it does some interesting things, and I think that people underrated it because they wanted it to be funny. And this movie isn't really like gut busting funny laughing. So it's called Funny People, and it has Seth Rogen and Adam Sandler in it, and you might think, oh, it's supposed to be funny. It's funny. It's got some humor, but Adam Sandler is like going on stage because he has cancer and he's like being morbid as hell and he's getting laughs in the crowd. It also like kind of communicates something about comedy where there's kind of comedy beyond intelligence. Like it has Aziz Ansari going on stage at an open mic. Like Seth Rogen is just like starting out doing comedy and he's sleeping on his friend's couch. He's just a loser working at some grocery store. He's trying to have a full-time comedy career. He's trying to be an up and comer. He goes on the open mic. He goes on right before Aziz Ansari, and Aziz Ansari is just being so stupid. He's like, "This is how I have sex," and he's like air humping, and he's like going, blah, blah, like he's just making sounds, and it really kind of makes this like, it's not funny at all, right? But it's like making a meta statement about like if you're just like animated and have this way about you, and you have a confidence and like a stage presence, like that's almost more pieces of the puzzle than actually having a like an intelligently like a well thought out humor. Like you don't have to be George Carlin to tell a joke. You can literally say pee pee poo poo, and if you have an energy about you, it can come across as funny. And I think that just having something like that, like honest, this movie's pretty honest, I think, and so that's something that gives me some respect for it. Um, I think this is a good one to watch. I think that I would recommend watching this one out of all the Adam Sandler movies. Um, yeah, I think this is a good old Adam Sandler movie, to be honest. I wasn't even thinking that at first, but now that I think about it more, I think this is one you should watch, if only just to kind of like think about Adam Sandler's career. It has some pacing issues, like it's kind of like what I'm talking about. You kind of get that point about like 60% of the way through the movie, and then there's like one arc. There's like an arc that it has to follow through with that's about the characters, and the characters aren't that interesting. So the movie has kind of already made its point, and it kind of has to like go through the steps of finishing the movie, and the writing isn't like that great at doing it. But I think, just as like a character study of like who into like the character of who Adam Sandler could be behind, all of his roles. Like it just has this guy playing like stupid comedy roles, and he's diagnosed with cancer, and then it's given him like it puts things into perspective, and he sees like Seth Rogen, upcoming comedian, and so he has this like bonding. Like Seth Rogen is kind of the window of the viewer into the life of this comedian that Adam Sandler is playing, that is very much seems to be a a parallel to his real life. So that's kind of cool. Funny People is kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that. It was the first time I watched it was in this process of watching these, and I gotta say I kind of liked it. Sandy Wexler. This might be the worst Adam Sandler movie I've ever seen. Um, the character of Sandy Wexler is supposedly based off of Adam Sandler's original talent scout. So like and the thing is like I bought it because they have all these celebrities telling you, yeah, this is Sandy Wexler. Sandy Wernick is the real life equivalent to Sandy Wexler apparently, but I really couldn't find a lot about about this guy. So I think they took a lot of liberties into just creating an independent character. This is another Stephen Brill, by the way. Stephen Brill, to remind you, is Little Nicky and Mr. Deeds. He comes back to do a few of the worst Adam Sandler movies, which are The Do-Over, Sandy Wexler, and Hubbie Halloween. So yeah, Stephen Brill's career, I think he just likes taking fat shits with Adam Sandler. I think that's he's just accepted that as part of his life now. I think the old ones, the original Stephen Brill Adam Sandler movies have a little bit more charm. These are just so terrible, and I don't think they're gonna age well. I think that these are gonna like look like people are gonna like people will have to be scraping to find these. These are also just straight to Netflix movies too, so it's like I think these are just these guys taking a paycheck, especially Sandy Wexler, because Sandy Wexler, I don't know, like it starts out where all of these Hollywood elite guys and men and women are having a party to remember Sandy Wexler, who's based off of Wernick, you know, this real supposedly real life guy. And so they're talking about Sandy Wexler like he's a real guy, and they're reminiscing about things that probably didn't happen. And it's just so, it's like Netflix money just threw a party for a bunch of, Hollywood household name type people, and they are eating shrimp, and Adam Sandler does a musical number in character as Sandy Wexler, and they're all just hanging out, and it's like, oh, they got to drink and eat good food afterward on set. It's like what I'm saying. Like Adam Sandler just pays for his vacations with some of these movies. Like this just paid for a bunch of Hollywood dudes or Hollywood people to have a nice dinner party. That's all this movie really feels like to me. But Meyerowitz Stories is a great movie. I think its direction is really good. The direction for the acting, because this is one of the first Adam Sandler movies where I saw like it's got like this like dynamic of like theater acting in some of the scenes where the ensemble is like talking over itself, and it's very like wavy. I'll call it wavy. That's the best way to describe it, because it's just tuned into a frequency of filmmaking that's sonic, and you're viewing it, and it understands the filmmaking as an experience, and what it can do, and what theater can do as an experience, and it plays to it very well and intelligently. And the director Noah Baumbach directed Francis Ha, ideas of what to watch. Definitely coming forward. This is like I would say this is him at his best. This is probably better than Wedding Singer, although I kind of hold them in a similar regard. I just think that as a film, Meyerowitz Stories is good, but Wedding Singer has a lot of charm. Uh, they're very close to each other, but I think this is Adam Sandler at his best with Meyerowitz Stories. The week of. This is what I was talking about with movies that get bogged down with just huge ensembles. But so we're watching him live with Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler loves this guy. Like if anything, Adam Sandler has created a cult-like family environment where Chris Rock's son has become part of his family more. And that's something that slowly starts happening, is even though that Chris Rock can foot everybody's bill and like give them 5-star meals, or like pay for them to be anywhere and like save the day, he can solve all of this movie's problems with his money. And that's something that's always being reminded to Adam Sandler throughout this whole movie. And there's something really endearing about the structure and the script to this movie, um, because Chris Rock can solve all of the problems, and then it's about Adam Sandler being this like control freak, or like he just wants to give his daughter like the best wedding ever. And so there's something really sweet about this. So something really sweet about that, I guess. It it kind of gets lost, and the movie is a lot longer than it should be, and you don't really get. It's more of just an Adam Sandler movie, even though he's supposed to be sharing the lead with Chris Rock. I would say that, funny enough, Steve Buscemi steals the whole damn show, because Steve Buscemi's in this movie, and he's like the funny uncle, and there's like the movie has a stroke of genius in its comedy. Like it's not the funniest movie in the world. Like it's decently funny. It's like a family funny movie. And then there's a stroke of genius where Steve Buscemi just like breaks in. He doesn't like break in. He really like just falls into this movie center stage out of nowhere. Like he's been in the movie the whole time, but he like comes up with this like crackpot idea, and it's so over the top, and they actually pull it off, and it's pretty funny. It actually got me. And at first I was like, oh, Steve Buscemi's just kind of like there, and then he does this shit, and I'm like, classic Steve. He had to do it again. But this is another movie very similar to, it's this trend of Adam Sandler being this like domineering father figure. And so and it does get drowned out. Like the ensemble is so big, like you don't really have a second to like think about anybody else other than Adam Sandler mostly, which is kind of a shame because I think Chris Rock's character could have been explored more. Um, but a lot of the characters could have been explored more because this ensemble just drowns everybody out. I would say it's mid tier, but it gets carried by Steve Buscemi. So what can you say? Oh, there's also it ends with them watching a video from Adam Sandler's mother, the grandmother of the bride, and it's just Adam Sandler in drag, by the way. So there you go. Is anybody really surprised? Yeah. Yeah. Murder mystery. Let's talk about this one. This one got a sequel recently. I peeked on that sequel. I'll tell you, murder mystery. It's called Mystery, but the sequel, if the sequel is anything like the first one, which I'm certain that it is, you're not going to be surprised at all. There's not going to be any mystery to this movie. Really concerned. I couldn't. I can't say that I'm concerned. 50 murder mysteries. Getting kind of tired of it, but I'd say probably the bottom end of mid. Like this is the chemistry. Like I said before with 50 First Dates, the chemistry between Adam Sandler and Aniston, Jennifer Aniston. It's just something kind of works about it, where she's just kind of a ball buster. She's kind of a ball buster. It's good for him. He's kind of a wise ass. They play off of each other well. It's kind of endearing. I think that it's better than Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore is more of like the damsel that needs to be won over. It's better as like a they're better yeah, they're better as a couple. Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler. Better as a couple. Sandler and Barrymore, it's sort of the falling in love story that's the angle with those movies. Is the she's the girl that you're trying to win over. That's the Barrymore angle. But we find ourselves, man, I kind of don't want to rate this one until last, but that would be saving the best for last, and we can't be that cliche. We got to be as shocking as Adam Sandler is with this role. This role is insane. This is such a good Sandler role. So good, dude. What can I say about Uncut Gems that hasn't already been said about the Safdie brothers, I believe. But this is their biggest movie so far. They said that they wrote this role for him. They were watching Sandler movies in the 90s and whatnot. They were watching. I like to imagine that they were watching fucking Anger Management. And they're like, hey, they were getting high watching Happy Gilmore, and they were like, you know what would be funny? They were watching Little Nicky, and they're like, you know what would be funny if Adam Sandler was a New York City jeweler and he got himself in terrible. He was a gambling addict and he got himself in terrible debt. And they just went and wrote the best Adam Sandler movie. You know, it's nice to see the elasticity of Sanders acting in roles that it's like it didn't have to be him, but it's just interesting that it was him, like in Reign Over Me. But with these movies like Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems, where the writer director like just gets at what Adam Sandler is capable of and plays to their strengths, and but then also gives them something that's like out of their comfort zone, but it's supposed to be taken seriously, but is like so them. It's cool, dude. It's cool to see. It's really a treat to see. Uncut Gems. This is like, I think this is like, if I had to recommend, obviously, if I had to recommend one Adam Sandler movie, it would probably be Uncut Gems. And I don't know if I like Punch Drunk Love more. I probably do personally, but as far as like what I would recommend for people to watch to just be like, damn, that's a good movie, whether you're a film buff, whether you're just if you're a Sandler fan, if you're just like trying to find a movie to watch, yeah, the soundtrack, dude. The soundtrack on this one, maybe one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably the best A24 movie I've ever seen. Adam Sandler has the best A24 movie. That's insane. Hipster girls, they can feel comfortable shaking their ass to Uncut Gems. The soundtrack, or even just the movie in general, because this movie's hot. This movie is great. One of the GOAT Adam Sandler movie. I will say that Uncut Gems, GOAT Adam Sandler movies of all time. Fuck it. Yeah, yeah. You got. I mean, people were probably expecting. Got to be Uncut Gems, right? It's definitely one of the two. I don't know which one I personally love more. I really love Punch Drunk Love. I have a soft spot for it. I wrote papers about this movie. Um, Literal like college essays for this movie. But Uncut Gems came out after those essays were written. I love this movie too. It's the GOAT. What can you say? It's the GOAT. What can you say but that it's the GOAT? Unlike what directly followed it, Hubbie Halloween, same year, Stephen Brill's last collaboration with Adam Sandler. This may be the no. Sandy Wexler and The Do-Over are surely worse to me. But Hubbie Halloween, it references Billy Madison with an O'Doyle rules at the end, toward the end, or like in the middle section. Hits you with an O'Doyle rules. Steve Buscemi, I don't think could even save this movie. I think Do-Over is one of the worst of all time. Sandy Wexler is cringe. I think Do-Over might be the worst. Yeah, I think I feel fine saying Sandy Wexler. Distance these like three most recent Adam Sandler movies. The Hustle is the most recent. I mean, they came out with Murder Mystery too, which will not surprise you at all. But at least Murder Mystery, I could say, is at least mid. In fact, I think it might be. I don't. Yeah, it's mid. It's just mid. It's just mid. But Hustle, okay. Hustle is his most recent like original movie, and he plays a talent scout for the 76ers, the basketball team. What is that? Philadelphia 76ers. And so it's really he's a pretty serious character. He's a little bit funny. He's got a little bit of that Sandler air about him, but he's more of like he's a father to a daughter again. Finds this guy on the streets of Spain playing street. He's hustling on the street. He's hustling on the basketball courts. His character's pretty underdeveloped. He's a father. Doesn't he has with daddy issues? I guess that's the one thing he's got kind of a strange past, estranged past. He's had to fight in the streets of urban Spain. He's from a bad neighborhood, bad kid from a bad neighborhood. That's how the media's gonna paint him when they find out about his assault charges that he has back home. And so Adam Sandler's like mitigating all this, and the douchebag son who inherited the 76ers, he doesn't like this guy, and Adam Sandler's like going to bat for him. And he's really like, this guy can do it. I believe in him. He's this unicorn that I found, and he can fill this role in the 76ers like no problem. But he's a little bit slow. He's a little bit slow. He's got the wingspan. He's got the height. He's got that dog in him, but he doesn't have the formal training that all of these other professional NBA players have been going through. And so when when the head coach of the 76ers sees this, he like writes Adam Sandler off. But he keeps coach out of his own pocket. He keeps coaching this like ringer that he's got, and does like a Rocky Balboa story with this guy. And eventually, what do you think happens? What do you think happens after that? Oh yeah, it was all for nothing, and Adam Sandler wasted a lot of money and gets a divorce. No, the fucking guy gets into the NBA, and then Adam Sandler becomes a coach of the 76ers. Sorry, I'm sorry. For that reason, it's mid, but they got like the entire. I'm kind of interested in They got the entire NBA to be in this movie, and I know Adam Sandler really likes basketball, because basketball's in a lot of Adam Sandler's movies. Adam Sandler really likes basketball, and he just gets like the entire NBA pretty much cameos in this movie, which is kind of shocking. So that's kind of memorable. I think it's probably mid. If I gotta say it's mid, I'm gonna put it like clicked here. So got a lot of mid Adam Sandler movies. I'm sorry. I think in hindsight, Ridiculous Six is solid. I think they should have actually used that on TV. If I were Dunkin' Donuts, I would use that on TV. And I think Dunkin' Donuts is making a comeback because there's been in the frequencies of the world soul and the waves and currents and tossings and turnings of the world's hive mind. Adam Sandler has been having a resurgence, and it's all coincided with me making this tier list. But it started before me making this tier list. It started before I even had the desire. Me making this tier list is just me being part of the universe like that. But as people have been remembering Adam Sandler and some of his not so good pieces, a lot of people have been thinking about Dunkachino. And a lot of people have been thinking, maybe I'm going to go to Dunkin' Donuts. And I think that psychic force is most responsible for the resurgence, because I've seen new Dunkin' Donuts being opened on the street corners in my city, in my area. Providence. Hey, make a sequel to the Zohan. That's my recommendation. That movie's ridiculous enough to get a sequel. Zohan, Zohar, Kabbalah, uh, from Kiefer to Malkuth, back to Kiefer, Keter.